Dear students, we're going to continue our series from different painter techniques, and in this tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to combine texture-aware media together with the mixing brush or with the mixing tool. So we're going now to pastels, and you know by now that I have a preference here. I really like to be working with the square heart because it's not mixing the colors himself, but he's working with a very strong paper texture, and afterwards I can do the mixing with an extra tool. Like this, I don't really have a very strong kind of mixing and like a blurring and adding color brush. I can just separate these two functions in two brushes, and I have the feeling that I have a better control doing it like this with this kind of paper aware medium. So I'm just leaving the pick up underlying color on, and I just have my drawing from the apple, and I have an extra layer that I'm going to fill up with a color, since I would like to be working now with a background color as well. So I'm selecting it all by pressing Command A, and I'm pressing Command F to fill it, and now I would like to have kind of a dark greenish background. Let me check. Not very strong on the saturation, and I'm confirming this right now. I can see my drawing quite well. And I'm opening a new layer. I have square heart, and in this case I'm really going to be working quite free, so I'm not doing the selection of it. I'm just grabbing first a warm yellow color, and you can see here I'm working with the basic paper from Painter. I really like this basic paper. Another possibility would be to be working with, in German called abgenutzten Pflaster. I don't know the name of it in English actually. It has a very beautiful texture as well. We can do this with this one. I just think this is still a little bit too tough, so I'm going to reduce the scale of it a little bit so that it's not too present. A little bit more. So yeah, this is good. So I'm just first kind of filling up the whole area I would like to be working with. You can see that this brush has an interesting texture, and if I do a little bit more pressure I can see less from this texture. Okay, so I'm just first filling up the whole area with it, and now I can start bringing up some colors. And the good thing about this brush is that you can work with a lot of pressure, or you can do less pressure and you're going to be covering or kind of mixing the colors a little bit more with each other. At the moment you do less pressure and you did already some kind of a basic color underneath it. So I'm starting with a quite large brush. I would do it even larger if I would have the selection on. It's a kind of a way to be a little bit more free if you're not selecting it and letting like the lines around it not very sharp. It really looks more like a painting. Like a free painting style. If you would like to do the details, of course, you just need to reduce the size of the brush. Usually I reduce the size of the brush by pressing Option Command instead of going on the top bar to change it. Like this I kind of win a little bit of time, and I don't need to take my hand off the image that I'm painting. And if at a certain point you would like to start doing details, like I said, you can just reduce the size of the brush and bring up some more details. I can turn off the drawing now just to have a better idea how does this look like for now. And I would say, let me check this. I can bring some lightness in here, but I'm still not doing the bigger glow yet. I would just like to bring some lightness in here and maybe some darkness. And I like to have it vivid like this, but if you would like, you can start blurring the colors a little bit with each other. So to do so, I would use the mixing brush, and I like the variant called wet mixing with texture. I think this would be the translation for it. I can increase the size of the brush, and now I could work on the layer itself, or I could open a new layer just to have some kind of a safety net. And having the pick up underlying color on, I can start mixing the colors with each other. And like this, I still have a little bit of the paper texture coming through. It's not a total kind of untexturized kind of mixing. And I could decide if I would like to have some areas without touching and still with this texture on, or if I would like to kind of be mixing the whole thing. It gives you a little bit the feeling of working with a pastel color and mixing it with a fingertip. I like to keep some parts with the texture still on it, and I can reduce the size of the brush as well to be working smaller areas without mixing too much and blurring too much on the sides. And I would just try something here. Oh, this is not really working. Okay, I'll just give up on that. Command Z. And now I would open a new layer. I would put underneath the apple. So you can see here the apples are here on top. I have the layer underneath it. And I would pick up a color. I can have here my list from the 10 last used brushes here on the top. I'm just picking up my brush again. And I'm going to do a little bit of shadow using the colors that the apple is going to be reflecting underneath it, and as well a little bit darker color for it as well. So let me get this background color. Too strong. I really like to have this texture visible, so that's why I'm kind of fighting a little bit to blur it, but this is another kind of technique, so I'm just going to do the blurring so that you can see how this would be looking like I'm not blurring too much, I'm not doing it too strong. And then afterwards I would like to make this corners from the apple a little bit stronger so that you have a little bit more contrast in here, and afterwards we can blur it again. So I'm reducing the size of my brush. I'm going back to the part of the illustration where I had this kind of blurry, doing a little bit of shadow on the lower part of my apple, but since it's something round, we have to see that some reflection is coming back, so we need to leave some part of it still with some light. And then afterwards I'm going to blur it a little bit again. Okay, and then I would just start making some highlights. here on the top. The good thing about it is that you can do some lights and then afterwards you could just use the blurring tool to mix it a little bit. I'll just make it a little bit smaller so that you just get like a little touch of the edges of this white, so that you can leave a part of it still very sharp and the rest kind of fading out. Just going to select the second tool again. I'm picking up this kind of in-between red just to give here as well a little bit of three-dimensionality to the apple. Making here a little bit darker as well, so that it really looks a little bit more round. And going back to my blurring tool. Okay, this is it. This is a quite interesting way to be mixing these two types of tools. I really like to be working with the square heart, and I think that it's nice as well to be bringing this little touch of focus and unfocus in the illustration. And like this, you kind of play with the illustration a little bit like as if you would really be working with charcoal and with the fingertips on this beautiful velvet type of paper. If you would like to have a sharper edge of it so that it looks more like you would be working with a very thin type of brush and not so large, we could as well kind of collapse these two layers. And I could now make a selection so that I would have a very clean cut. I would inverse selection, delete it, and like this you have a quite clean edge on the illustration. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll talk to you on the next tutorial. Bye bye.